Some books are extremely special to the person who created them, their author. The book I want to introduce to you in this video is precisely one of those for me. Hello, I'm John Heffernan. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I want to show you a book of mine that was published more than 20 years ago and is still in print today. It's a picture book, but it's a picture book for all ages, from young children right through to adults. The book is called My Dog, and it's set around the long war that happened in Bosnia Herzegovina in the 1990s. The story is seen through the eyes of a young boy who becomes separated from his family and wanders through the war-ravaged countryside in search of them. With him is a little stray dog that the boy has found, and they've become best friends. The boy's overwhelming wish is to find his family so that my dog can become their dog too. The illustrations in this book are simply beautiful. Wonderful watercolour works by Andrew McLean. They're soft, they're evocative, and they really draw you in to the story. As I said, this is a very, very special book to me. I hope you find something special here too. My Dog, written by John Heffernan, illustrated by Andrew McLean. I don't go to school anymore. No one does. The school closed when Mr. Gladovich joined the army. Granny Mirsa and my little sister Tima have gone away too. That's when I started working for my dad. Elijah, the Red! My dad is the best baker in our village. Well, the only baker really. Lishtar is on the back road to the coast. It used to be quiet. No one travelled on the narrow dirt track twisting through our mountains. Too many potholes, holes that could swallow a car, my dad said. But then the trucks came, and the cars and the carts, and the people walking with suitcases, bags and bundles. Children crying, straggling behind like scraps of rubbish in the wind. Mad-eyed women, and men walking like beaten dogs, old men and old women with legs and hearts worn out, and children with no parents, fear stuck all over them, like the mud that comes when the snow melts. Some stayed for a while in the hall behind the church. That's where I took the bread. Help those who can't help themselves, my dad says. The square was nearly empty that day. Only me and the bread trolley clunking on the cobbles, and an old man shuffling along. I could hear the rattling in his chest as he breathed, whispering to himself, Adja, Adja, get going. Stepping in his footsteps was a small blotchy dog that looked at me through ink-spot eyes. Have some bread, I wanted to say, but the old man lifted his head. Face like willow ash, purple lips shaking, eyes with clouds in them. I pushed a loaf at him, but the eyes didn't see. The old head lowered, and he shuffled on again, leaving his old man smell behind. When I returned, he was sitting near the barber's, and he seemed to be staring at me. Want some bread, old man? Come with me. But he didn't want bread. And he wasn't staring at me. He was dead. Only the grave diggers and the blotchy dog were there to say goodbye, and me with a few flowers. Everyone's got to have flowers, Granny Mirsa says so. The dog watched me put the flowers in place. She watched me leave the cemetery, and when I looked back, she was still watching me. When I got home, she was behind me, one ear up, ink spots watching. Hey, it's your own little refugee, Elijah, my dad said. Bring her in then, give her some milk. We need a guard dog. She was my dog now. Night after night we watched the lights in the eastern sky. They were like fireworks. Then they came closer, the booms louder, and you could feel the thuds in bed at night. My dad said the fighting would blow away like the winter wind. And then he said it wouldn't come to Lishta. "Oh, we all live together here," he said. "Bosnian, Serb, Croat, Muslim, Christian, we're all one people." But the fighting came closer, and the people of Lishta stopped living together. My dad became quiet, and his face looked stretched. One day he became angrier than I've ever seen him. He marched up the road and banged on Mr. Stano's door. There was a flag that hadn't been there before. "Why do you put up your flag, Milo?" my dad yelled. "I'll do what I like in my village," Mr. Stano said. He talked as though he didn't like my dad. But how could that be? They were good friends. "It's my village too," Dad said. "Should I also put up a flag?" Suit yourself." Mr. Stano pulled back into his house and slammed the door. My dad stared at the closed door for some time. Then he turned and walked slowly home, holding my hand so tight that it hurt. One night, Dad said it was time for Mum and me to leave. I don't want to go," said my mother. My place is with you. Women are 3 pillars of the home, men only 1. You know that, Nuraya. Send Elijah to Auntie Magda's. There he'll be safe." My dad put me on his lap and stroked my hair. "You look after your mother, young man. I'm sending you both to Auntie Magda's tomorrow." We didn't go the next day because the soldiers came. They just looked like ordinary men, but they had guns and were crazy in their eyes. Dad had to give them most of his bread, and they shot people in the street. We couldn't go outside for days. Mr. Stano talked to those soldiers. I think they were friends of his. When the soldiers left, Dad ran out into the street and stood in front of a truck until it stopped. He gave the driver money so that Mum and I could get on. I was only allowed to take my school bag. That's where I hid my dog. "It won't be forever," Dad said. "We'll be together again soon." Mum and I hugged him so hard that we had to be pulled apart. I wanted to be brave, but I didn't want to let go of my dad. "Here, son," Dad said. "Some of my best bread, and some burek. These will keep you going." Then he stood and watched as we drove out of the village. My dad became smaller and smaller until I couldn't see him anymore. All I could see were the houses and the roofs and the minarets standing up like a sharpened pencil, all quiet, watching and waiting, like my dad. That night was like a horrible dream that wouldn't go away. Moaning, crying, people pushing, whispering fear with every breath. Who was it this time? Would they let us through? Would they let us go to Auntie Magda's? All night long in the coughing, banging truck. I huddled close to my mum. My dog had her head just poking out of my bag, shaking with little noises. I hugged her close until she was quiet, and together we watched the black trees of the night fly over us. In the morning we stopped. Down the valley I could see the morning sun bouncing off the mountains, and further on, the flickering blue of the coast. "Is that where Auntie Magda lives? Is that where there's no fighting?" My mum just nodded. "Have some bread, Elijah." They came out of the trees, men with guns and hating eyes. On the ground, they yelled, and fired their guns. They hit an old lady who couldn't get down fast enough, and when my mum screamed at them, they hit her and made her get into the truck. They hit me when I ran at them, punching. They laughed. They kicked my dog when she bit them. And when they drove away with my mum, I ran after them. I fell, I ran down the stony road after them. "Stop! Give me my mum!" But they didn't stop. She's so beautiful, my mum. My dad says that she's the most beautiful woman in the world. Why did they hit her? Why did they take her away? I want her back. I want them all back. My mum, my dad, little Tima, Granny Mirza. It took 3 days and nights to walk to the coast. The first night I slept under a bridge. I was cold and hungry and frightened. An old man gave me some of his dried meat and bread. The bread was nothing like my dad's, but I didn't tell the old man that. I just ate the bread and watched him through my tears. The old man let me share his blanket. I felt warm and safe with him. My dog slept next to me and licked my face when I hugged her close. The bora howled all around, full of voices, weak, weeping voices, yelling, screaming voices. Only when the old man held me hard and stroked my hair and cried with me did the voices fade away. We walked together the next day. The old man put me on his shoulders and told me things about his village that made me want to laugh and cry all at once. My dog liked him too. Late one afternoon, my dog chased a hare across the field and caught it. Then she brought it back to us. "Well, well," said the old man, holding up the hare by the hind leg, "we'll have ourselves a grand meal, thanks to your little four-legged friend. She's a good dog." It's warmer now here at the coast. The old man took me to his daughter's house. They are trying to find Auntie Magda, but the police say it won't be easy. I'm just one of many, and they don't know Auntie Magda. But they said they would try to tell my dad so that he can come and get me. That's why I sit here at the edge of the town, where the road from Lishtar comes in. Every day I sit here with my dog, so that when my dad comes, he'll see me and we'll be together again. Then we can find my mum and my little sister and Granny Mirza. She doesn't have a name, my dog. She's just my dog. Don't worry, I tell her. We'll all be together again. Then you can be their dog too. My dog, their dog, ours.